Hello, podcast world, fellow horticulturists, lovers of plants, gardeners, family, and friends. Welcome to Shrubby Buddies, the podcast, friends with woodies for garden goodies. I'm host Matt Guthrie.
And I'm host Tim Fleischer. Coming at you from Central Ohio, Zone 6B. We're just a couple of public horticulturists and certified arborists with experience in education, landscape design, gardening, retail, and wholesale.
So grab a drink, polish your pruners, dust off that kneeling pad, and let's get down to business. Hey, Shrubby Buddies, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I am host Matthew C. Guthrie the First, joined with my best good buddy and fellow horticulturist, Timothy Danny Bobani Banana Nana Fofani Me My Mamani Danny Fleischer. Tim, how are you?
Here I am, Timothy Danny. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Matt.
I
really enjoy the new setup here that we've been recording in this season. I can see the neighbors frolicking outside on this beautiful evening, and we've let the dogs in. The first two episodes, we locked them out.
Nope, they're part of this.
But now they can come and go freely. So Nissa can lay there and toot and sleep, and Prince can come in and lick my knees. So, and then Cooper, he's usually pretty quiet.
He's just chilling in the other room.
So, yeah, if you ever hear a little bark or yelp, that's just the pups.
Yeah.
And I love the pups. You know I do.
I know you do.
I think a lot of people mistake me for
old Timmy
cats
Loose
only, and
Uncle Timmy Loosejaw.
Yeah, I'm Uncle Loosejaw.
That's right.
Like they're a loose jaw, not me. I'm not a loose jaw.
I don't know. I think you might be. So, Tim, what's been going on this week in your world of family life, horticulture, all of that good stuff? Anything fun and exciting to share with these fine folks listening?
Let's see. We had a big event at my daughter's elementary school, just to kind of get the gardens that we installed in shape for the spring. So some weeding, some mulching. We put in some edging, little trimming here and there, and then another group worked on the playground to paint basketball rims and things like that.
Little TLC.
Get the Gaga pits in order.
Yeah.
So that was fun. We didn't lose any plants from that planting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe a perennial here and there, but all the woodies are intact. So a good intact woody is a true blessing.
I love a good woody.
Yeah.
You too?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So,
and today we got some much needed rain. A round of thunderstorms moved through mid-afternoon, and they were pretty banging. There were some pretty loud boomers.
Yeah, there was some good lightning in it for sure. So we did need that rain.
Loud boomer. And I'm not talking about Kyle Cross. I'm talking about thunder.
Yeah, he is a boomer. Or in his words, I ain't a boomer, I'm a cusper, whatever the hell that means. So you're a boomer, bud.
Hey, Kyle.
Get over it.
Yeah, and it looks like there's another round about to sock us, which
maybe
should be fun. Maybe would be sweet if there was thunder loud enough for these mics to pick up.
That would be awesome.
That'd be cool.
Maybe.
But anyhow,
we'll see what happens.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Oh, well, at work, we got annuals starting to roll in, and hopefully by this week, next time, I've got a lot of the annuals in planters and some in the ground, and so that's really exciting for me.
Yeah. We've got lots and lots of perennial plugs to put in the ground for your cottage garden.
Yes, we do.
I ordered us each a tray of the Prairie Drop Seed Golden Needles from Brent at Extrinsic. So it's that yellow foliaged Prairie Drop Seed. I bet Megan doesn't know that we've got that coming yet. So Megan, when you hear this, I know you're going to be envious of us.
She's going to be so jealous. And I've got a spot for it already. So
yeah, finger beds, finger meat
beds.
But other than that, yeah, it's just been kind of, we're into spring now. So weed control, getting some stuff planted, getting some stumps ground. I mean, like me personally, getting ready to plant some trees, working on some perennial stuff. We've had perennials rolling in, plugs like rolling in shipments of them and all of that good stuff. What else we got going
Your
on?
gardens look beautiful as I look out the window
Yeah,
here.
they're really starting to come on now. We've gotten some rains and some nice weather, and everything's really starting to wake up nice. So I'm already seeing a couple of things that, I may tweak here or there, but you always tell me to stop worrying so much about it.
You worry too much, But yeah, that's gardening is a constant process of editing. This isn't a set it and forget it industry.
Correct.
So
yeah, so not a whole lot going on there. Greenhouse was, I thought, pretty busy this weekend for us. We did pretty good. I asked Bob how we did, and he's like, well, it wasn't a home run or a grand slam, but it was a solid triple, and I'm like, dude, he sets these lofty goals for us. Like,
yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting to third base.
That's what I said. I was like, there's nothing wrong with third base, man.
Yeah.
And here he is. He's expecting us to hit these walk-off grand slams, and, I don't know.
It'll come.
Can't happen every weekend.
It'll come.
He was out in Las Vegas this past week while we were all, slaving away at the greenhouse. He was out in Las Vegas for 3 nights of Dead and Company. So he saw their Dead and Friend. Is it Dead and Company or Dead? Anyways,
I don't know.
The Grateful Dead with John Mayer. Yeah, he saw them at the Sphere and had nothing but great things to say. He's already talking about wanting to go out again next year, and I said, definitely. If you do it, let me know.
I like John Mayer. He's got a station on Sirius XM. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever listened to it.
I haven't. I don't have XM.
It's not all his music. He plays some of his music, but he also just plays music he likes, and he's got a really good taste in music.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm sure he does. He's a hell of a musician.
Yeah, he is. And then going back to the sports references we were making, the Cleveland Cavaliers swept the Heat.
Yeah.
In really fun fashion, I believe. Was it the game 4 win? They won by like 55, which they set a record for biggest deficit in a first round playoff game.
Yeah, it was something crazy.
They just kicked their ass.
Yeah, for sure.
So that wasn't a sweep. That was a mopping.
Yeah. Good on the Cavies. They're a hot team right now, man. Fingers crossed.
I'm excited. They're going to get some rest for the next round because they're done.
Which hopefully rest is what they are wanting.
Yeah, that's
true.
How
sometimes those teams that in playoffs when they make those sweeps and then they get a little too much
You don't want too much rest.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we'll see. I think they want rest, though. That's just the fan in me
for sure.
Being optimistic. And then, speaking of the fan in me, just in case anyone didn't know, the Buckeyes football team, Ohio State Buckeyes, won a national championship earlier this year.
And sent like 45 people this year in the draft.
45 people went in the draft, almost setting a record.
Yeah.
So
crazy stuff, dude. So
good times.
Cool, man. So so that was kind of our week. But yeah. Anything else you need to add?
Nah, I'm sure it'll come to me later.
Well, if it comes to you, just speak up and let it flow.
All right.
Stigma anther pollen style. What's a bloomin' crocodile? Timmy, what's a bloomin'?
Well, it came to me. What else I needed to say.
Okay.
But that's a tease.
All right.
And I'll mention that after
you go over the bloom report.
The bloom report for the week. It's a fun time of year because every time you look, there's something new. Mm-hmm. There's something new in bloom. And I didn't notice a whole lot of new perennials this week blooming. I'm sure they're there, but I didn't notice them. But what I did notice in the perennial realm was Jacob's Ladder. Mm-hmm. Great native ephemeral. But in the garden setting can be more than an ephemeral. The foliage can stay for quite a bit longer. Ours is blooming at home, gorgeous. And threadleaf blue star, Imsonia hubrichtii. It's blooming, and that's one of those plants we've talked about a lot for all seasons, and this is its bloom season. Yeah. And it's gorgeous. Just a nice blue flower. The invasive plant that I've noticed blooming is autumn olive. And it's kind of one of those plants that's going to be growing in the same place honeysuckle is going to be, disturbed areas or woodlot edges, and white flower, beautiful scent to it, silvery leaves, but it will really take over an area. So bad stuff.
No bueno.
And then a whole lot of woodies this week blooming. So bladdernut, which last week was one of my Earth Day
Yeah, Earth Day plantings.
Shrubs, it's in full bloom, little bell-shaped flowers, just gorgeous. Pawpaw is in full bloom.
I was going to say, yeah.
That dark red flower, it's just like a hard color to find this time of year, and it's there. It's one that's a little bit more inconspicuous. You got to know what you're looking for, but it's blooming well. Kwanzaa cherry is blooming, which is a double-flowered cherry, and, you know, we've talked about how cherries aren't always our favorite, but it sure is beautiful when it's blooming. Red buckeye, which is another one of our native buckeyes, blooms about the same time as Ohio buckeye, but it is banging right now. And again, that red color is it's not all that common this time of year, and it's really it really stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the hummers love it.
Yeah, they do.
From what I understand. So, common lilac, Syringa vulgaris, is blooming. Great scent to that. One of our native viburnums, Black Haw viburnum, is blooming. There's a beautiful one just in your backyard, you know, just cascading over the fence.
It's beautiful.
Another viburnum that just started blooming is leatherleaf viburnum, which is it's a non-native, and it has like these leathery dark leaves that are semi-evergreen and persist in the winter.
Little leather.
Yeah, they just have a little leather, you know,
leather.
not full on, just a little leather to them.
Okay.
Cornus Florida, our native flowering dogwood,
One of my faves.
is starting to bloom, and yeah, there's a picture of it on. Did you take that photo?
I did take that
Gorgeous,
photo.
nice
Yeah, thank
close
you.
up of the blooms, and I've noticed it in my neighborhood blooming. There's a lot of white ones and pink ones that are blooming right now, and then the Cornus Cusa will be here to follow. It's not blooming yet, but it will. And then the last one that is a little more rare to see, but I noticed the stripe bark maples are blooming. So we have a few of those planted around in Dublin, and the blooms are just really cool. They're like a yellowish green, and they're really long and pendulous, and just, you know, take the time to notice things like that.
That's what, Acer Pennsylvanica?
Well,
right?
I believe, so the native one is Acer Pennsylvanicum, and then I think the one that I noticed was Acer tegmentosum,
Okay.
which is, I believe, an Asian variety, but very similar with the striped bark.
Because I know, like, the native one, man, you should see them, like, up in northern Michigan. If we got any Michigan listeners, these things are, like, you know, like, similar to what the Ohio buckeye is to us here as an understory tree. You know, you can go into some, like, nice nature preserves that are just, the whole understory is buckeye.
Yeah.
And up there, it's that way with the straight bark.
You're going to have to show me that next time we're there.
Yeah, for sure.
During the right season. I can't wait to see
Perfect.
that.
Yeah.
So, and to pay off on the teas that I had mentioned before that segment, we have 277 listens to the podcast this month, and it is currently April 29th, so still another day to go this month. 277 listens in a month is a new record for us.
Yeah, that's great.
Previously held by July of 24, which was 276 listens.
So thank you, people, for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
that's fantastic.
really cool to see the bar graph shooting up
Yeah. Thank you for that,
on
Tim.
our little statistics page.
So if you're listening, share with family and friends. We love getting people to listen and enjoy the show, and we hope that you all are enjoying it.
Yeah, a couple of the listens were our Small Trees, Big Personalities episode that we did. There was a 2-part episode last season.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Kelsey, was asking me about a weeping cherry to replace a redbud that had died. And I told her I don't really love cherries, and she was asking me some other things. I said, listen, not trying to be dismissive, but just listen to these episodes.
Yeah.
And I think you might find your answer.
Perfect.
And she did.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, Kelsey listened and found her replacement.
Well, she did listen, and she said, based on how we were gushing about, how I was gushing about 3-flower maple, she was thinking that's might be the
Perfect.
one. So
yeah, you like to gush about that.
yeah,
So
I do. Anyhow,
cool. On to the subject.
Yeah.
So, so this week I read an article. There was an article that came across my Instagram feed from a guy named Steve Mydelsky out of Tennessee. He runs a business called the Natchez Glen House, and he's got a 2.5-acre perennial farm down there that with just breathtaking gardens that I think he runs workshops out of, and you can tour the gardens and things. And he also runs like a mail order perennial business where he does a lot of kind of these like pre-curated gardens that you can order from him, or you can order peony. He does a lot with the peonies and the dahlias.
Not to be confused with mail order brides, right?
No, mail order plants.
Okay, got
it. But he wrote this really, really good article that really hit home to me, because it's like so much of what he talks about in the article is how I feel about this subject. And that's the subject of mulch, and kind of where we've gone wrong with mulch. And I just thought, it's that time of the year where people are mulching, and I just thought we should talk about mulch. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic.
Good idea.
I think I've been kind of dreading our mulch episode, but I think that article lights a fire under me to be excited about it.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect timing for it.
It is the perfect timing.
Because people want to be mulching.
Yeah. And there's so many, I think there's a lot of, it's just a lot of bad ideas and bad information out there on mulching, and really bad practices that have been drove home by the mulch industry. Obviously, these guys are marketing geniuses, like the Scott's Company and places like that. They're marketing geniuses, and they really know how to push these products and make you feel like you have to be putting this product down, or you're not going to have a successful garden or a beautiful garden. And I think that that's totally the wrong way of thinking about it. And the stuff that people are buying at big box stores and things, it's not the right stuff that they really should be using, in their flower beds. So,
and I read the article too. It's very fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of the article is "Mulch Has Become a Lie." And I just want to read a quick excerpt from it, as far as the definition of mulch goes, if you wouldn't mind.
No.
The word mulch first appeared in English in the 1650s, derived from the Middle English mulch, meaning moist and soft. It referred to decaying matter, leaf litter, compost, rotting straw, materials that were part of the natural cycle of fertility.
Yeah.
So you hear that, where the word comes from, and then you think of pine bark nuggets and pieces of hardwood. You don't really think of moist and soft.
No, I think of dry and hard.
Okay.
In something that is not going to decompose very fast. So I know in that article, Steve talked about the pine bark nuggets specifically, and how they're just these big chunky pieces of mulch that we put down, and as they do break down, which folks, pine nuggets takes forever to break down. But as it does break down, especially if you are in areas with more alkaline soil and you're adding this the acidity from the pine, that's not really doing your plants that are planted in alkaline soil any good if you're making the soil, the pH of the soil lower. So I thought that was interesting. And then like you mentioned, the hardwood, and that's kind of what everybody gets is so many people are buying these hardwood mulches in bags from the big box stores, dyed black, 5 bags for $10. I think I saw that at Lowe's or Home Depot, or someone that's putting that out right now. And so many people line up to buy this stuff, and then they put it on their gardens, and it's they don't even really know what it is that they're putting on their gardens. It's labeled as mulch, and it's black, and it's going to last, the color's going to stay around a year. Is that really what we want to be putting on our plants? Or these dyes that are going to hold color for a year or longer? I don't know.
You and I want to piggyback on that. You mentioned the big box stores, and you don't know where it came from, and it's in bags. Another piece of this article mentions, and I'm not looking at it right now, but about a state that the mulch, the hardwood shreddings come from.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets trucked to this other state where it's processed and dyed, and then back out to these other states where it's, where the stores receive it, and then it's sold. And why should a product like that have to move around so much?
Yeah.
And all the fuel that's used to propel the trucks across these areas seems kind of silly, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And then not to mention how long is that mulch sitting in those bags and just like getting cooked and sterilized and
you know what we're saying. You've opened a bag of mulch and it just doesn't smell right and it's got like a white residue and the color's off and it's slimy. That's not what we should be. That's not necessarily what we should be putting down every year on our gardens, right?
Yeah, correct. So I think that when looking at mulches, first of all, understanding like how often you should be mulching, the thickness that you should be mulching, and the different mulch products that you should be looking to use is really, I think, where we should start with this. And so we were kind of talking before this episode, and it was like maybe on a new garden, putting down a 2-inch layer of mulch, like you read everywhere 2 to 4 inches, like a 2-inch layer of mulch year one, and then followed by, if need be, like a lighter layer for the next year or two, and then maybe like a heavier, thicker layer, another 2-inch layer of mulch.
So you're saying instead of 2 to 4 inches of dyed hardwood every single year, going thinner,
yes,
and maybe alternating years, maybe adding some compost layers in.
Yeah, I think that leaves is something that a lot of people have. And in the fall time, what we always do is rake up our leaves or mow up our leaves, and we put them out by the curb for the vac trucks to come by and suck up, and they take away. And guess what? They're taking your leaves, they're composting them, and then they're turning right around and selling it to people as leaf compost. So why not use like your leaf compost as mulch? I know that you and your wife do that. You go out, you mulch these leaves up and bag them, and then you take that and you dump it on the garden. And
yeah, I do. I blow a lot of leaves into the garden.
And you blow into the garden.
And then on those final couple mows where I'm just pulling leaves off the grass and mulching them up and putting them into a bag, I then wherever that mower bag fills up, I just dump it in the garden. So if I'm near the perennial border in the back, I spread them in there. If I'm back by the pine trees or the perennial garden around the fire pit, I spread them around there. And it's free, and it's adding so much organic matter to my soil and helping my soil become loose and aerated, and making it a kind of place where insects want to get into and create pores, and
earthworms and all of that stuff.
It's free.
It is free, and it is a great mulch. And and in my opinion, it still looks good, right? I mean, so I think everybody has like what mulch would be like. Most people are putting it on for the aesthetics, right? Aesthetics, and maybe you'll have someone that'll say like, "Oh yeah, that and it hinders weed growth." Like, yes, it does to an extent, but I'm here to tell you right now, like, it might hinder weed growth for a month or a month and a half, but those weeds are still going to come back. So unless you're putting like 6 or 8 inches of mulch down, you're not completely hindering the weed growth. You're still going to have weeds in there. So really at the end of the day, especially when you're going out and you're buying this stuff that's dyed black or dyed brown, that's for a year, it's an aesthetic thing, right? Like, I want this beautiful black layer of wood on top of my garden, which to me is just mind-boggling. Like, that's not what a garden should be, right? A garden should not be dyed wood. A garden should be an area that's completely full of plants, that are touching and growing together and interacting together with very minimal mulch, And I think, too, if we get into our mind that, like, plant density is a thing and we can plant plants closer than what the tag says, that's going to cut back on the amount of mulch needed, right? And with plant density, that's going to hinder the weed growth. And I would much rather look at plants planted really, really thick across a garden than a garden with these little meatballs of plants scattered about with 3 or 4 feet of wood chip between them. I don't know.
So you're saying that a kind of almost a method of mulching is planting more densely, creating a weed barrier of green plants.
Yeah, because if the light can't touch the soil, then the weeds can't really grow, right? Plants need light to grow.
Yeah.
If your good perennials are planted dense enough, then the light can't reach the soil to. Now, that's not to say early on in the year there's going to be some weed growth, right? That you may have to take care of. But, come June when these plants are really starting to bang, like, the weed hindering that does is going to be better than what mulch would do. So,
yeah. And what about mulching with some mulches that are more beneficial? Like, for instance, Megan and I mulched the yard with a product from Price Farms Organic. Am I saying the company right?
Yeah.
Up in Delaware?
In Delaware, yeah.
And they're a local company, reliable, making their own mulch. And I think the product we used was the ProTech.
Okay.
Super fine, just packed with organic material, really easy to spread, not dyed, a nice dark rich brown. It didn't last long because it broke down quickly and went into the soil.
Yeah.
So it looked really nice for the season. So mulching with some alternatives to pine bark, nuggets, or dyed hardwoods,
Yeah.
could be a big thing. So we mentioned leaves. I could see why a listener might say, I don't think the leaves, cut up leaves are going to look good as mulch. But a product like this that's almost as fine as topsoil, but has a nice dark, rich brown color to it, it won't just look nice. It'll help break down your soil and your plants grow better.
Yeah. So if someone were to ask me, like, hey, what kind of mulch should I get? Like, I want to mulch this year. What kind of mulch should I get? I would say go to like a local nursery and try and find a good organic, like at the minimum triple processed. Like, don't go for the double processed stuff. Find triple processed. There's even quadruple processed stuff out there now. Stuff that's been run through the processor 3 times, so it's nice, fine. A lot of these good nurseries where they're sourcing their mulch from, that mulch is going to be made locally. It's going to be, I know one of the mulch manufacturers that we use at work, they literally are taking the woody stuff that's getting dropped off by arborists and landscape companies and things, and they're grinding that into the mulch right there on site. And they do a nice job of separating out the trash from what they need for the mulch. So you get this really nice sourced locally mulch. It's literally coming out of the grinder. I mean, it's come out of the grinder before and right into the back of our truck.
Yeah.
So
because you mentioned, and I didn't know this, that some of these companies, some of the stuff you're buying in the bags for real cheap is like ground up pallets.
Yeah, it's ground up pallets with no value to it. You don't know where the wood came from, what's in the wood. There could be nails in it, trash, who knows?
That's terrible.
But yeah, so I wouldn't, highly recommend like go into a local nursery, not a big box store. Don't buy the bag stuff. Try and buy bulk, buy triple processed. If you need the black stuff and that's like your thing, then okay. I don't think that it's necessary. Like, we shouldn't be striving to showcase mulch. I think we should be like just trying to showcase our plants and using the mulch as for some weed hindrance early on in the season, but more for a nutritional value for the plants, right? Adding this this organic compound to the soil that's going to break down in a year's time and add nutrients to the soil.
I like how you said that we shouldn't be showcasing mulch. I couldn't agree more. We shouldn't be. Why
it's
are we?
Mulch.
Yeah,
it's wood.
I get it.
Yeah, we shouldn't be showcasing that. So like, I don't know why we need to be so like fixed on these dyed reds and dyed blacks and dyed browns and something that's going to hold this color all season long. Like, I haven't mulched my house in 2 years. My plants are so dense. Like, if I was to go out and mulch in June, after everything's filled in, I could do the whole front of my house with probably 4 or 5 bags of mulch.
It's like you wouldn't even notice because you're not trying to highlight the mulch. So, and I understand this time of year you see a lot more of your ground, but just remember those plants are just growing a lot each day, and it's not going to be long before, if you have things planted right, you're not going to be able to see the ground, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're going for,
And
ultimately.
that's what like Roy Diblick from the No Maintenance Perennial Garden, he talks a lot about that. And he's in his book called the No Maintenance Perennial Garden, he mentions something that's really interesting, and he talks about no plant has ever evolved. No plant on Earth has ever evolved growing out of a pile of wood chips, right?
Right.
So what makes you think that adding the wood chips to the plants at your house is going to make them grow better?
Right.
Because it's really not.
It makes you think about, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to make the plants grow better, or are we just trying to showcase the mulch, as you say?
Yeah.
So I like that. And he also mentions that, when you mulch over, earlier in the season over the crown of a plant, yeah, it'll grow through. But what you're doing is you're locking in moisture right on top of the crown of the plant with these mulches that aren't breaking down and that could come from who knows where, and you're creating just an area where just fungus wants to just grow. So eventually doing that every year is not going to be good for the crown of the plant, and it's eventually going to die. It's not going to grow to its full potential at the very least, and it's probably going to die if you keep mulching over the crown. So
Yeah, and I mean, there again, if you want to talk about like with perennials, woodies are one thing because they're already up out of the ground, but with like perennials, if you're mulching to hinder weed growth, what makes you think that mulching over perennials or tightly around perennials is it going to hinder their growth?
Yeah.
The mulch doesn't care if it's a good perennial, or if it's a dandelion or a thistle. Like, a plant's a plant. They all work the same way, so packing these wood chips in around the plants, just, it's not doing them any favors. It's not allowing them to grow to their full potential. You
mean to tell me the mulch doesn't know the difference between a weed and a penstemon?
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but
I always thought it would.
Well, it may be some smart
I'm
mulch.
learning a lot today.
So,
smart mulch.
Smart mulch. Yeah,
Apple mulch.
I mulch.
I mulch.
I mulch. So it's
not that
mulch.
It's not that far fetched.
No, not in the world that we live in. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that we could go in on this. I get a little fired up about the mulch conversation just because I've always kind of thought that mulch is silly. I think that everybody mulches too much. I think everybody's mulching with the wrong stuff. Like, I've always kind of felt that way. Especially when I see the stuff coming out of the bags, like the Scott's Miracle Grow bags at Home Depot, and it's like these 1.5 by 1.5 thick chunks of who the hell knows what that's like 6 inches long, and I'm just like, how is that ever going to go anywhere in the yard? And how is that ever going to... And then you continue to put it on year after year, and I don't know.
What's this thing called under this desk that all the plugs go into?
A power strip?
A power strip. We were mulching the school, and this guy, this parent that was down from me, he's like, "Look at this!" And he pulled a piece of mulch out of the bag that was the size of a power adapter. It was like a log.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And so many people are doing this because it's what is like ingrained into our mind, right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about, the companies that are selling the mulch are marketing geniuses, and they are so good at getting into our minds and telling us, like, this is what you need to be doing, or this is what you have to be doing. And it's just totally the wrong approach. There is no great gardener in this world. And when I talk about great, like, I'm talking like big time gardener, big name gardener. None of them are ever going to talk about how you need to mulch every single year with the 2-inch thick layer of double processed hardwood mulch.
Correct.
So this spring, when you're going out to do your gardening and you're ready to start putting your mulch down, think about what it is that you're putting down. Think about your plants. Do you want to give your plants their best shot at living and their best shot at thriving? If so, and you need to put the mulch down, go to your local garden center. Don't go to the big box stores. Try and find bulk mulch. I know some of these places are bagging their bulk mulch. So I know, like Kurtz Brothers, where we get some mulch from, you can buy it in bulk, or you can buy that bulk stuff where they literally just, bag it up right there in a cheap bag. But buying that triple processed or quadruple processed, kind of finely ground organic mulch
Yeah.
that's from local plants is going to be your best way to go. Stay away from the pine nuggets or the playground mulches. Stay away from these double processed chunky black mulches. And
Yeah, I mentioned Price Farms Organic earlier here in Central Ohio. Whether you live here or not, check out their website. They do a great job of showing all their soil amendments and mulches in a little pile with a quarter next to it. So it gives you reference on size of the particles. And it does a great job of describing what each thing is composed of and what it will do for your garden. So just at least check out the website and peruse some of that. But using, like Matt said, a local place like that makes their own mulch can get you a long way.
Or a garden center that's maybe they're not making their own mulch, but it's buying it from
A reputable.
Find out where they're buying it from.
Yeah.
If they're having it trucked in from out of state, maybe not the best thing. If they're buying it from somebody that's processing it 15, 20 miles down the road and it's from local waste, that's probably the best way to go.
Exactly. There's some things I do want trucked in from out of state.
And it ain't that.
Like pineapples.
Or avocados.
Yeah. Both good examples.
Yeah.
Because we're not growing those here, and I like those things. But mulch, there's no reason why we should be buying mulch that's trucked in from out of state.
Yeah.
Silly. So, yeah, I think where we're going with all this is just a general attitude shift on what a garden is, what a garden should be. Because if you are just going to plant a garden that is boxwoods, pruned into little meatballs, planted 3 to 4 feet apart, and that's it, then
whatever. Mulch with whatever.
Then mulch with your dyed black and call it a day. But if you're trying to grow an actual
garden,
a community, an ecosystem in your yard, then maybe rethink your mulching habits.
Yeah, exactly. Let's shift that, and let's focus on some practices that are going to benefit your ecosystem, your garden, and not just your desolate landscape. So, yeah, and the mulch industry is crazy too, because I think, if I remember right, when we had the episode with Bree last year, we were talking about, was that Soil Cubed, which is she is sponsored by, and this is like on the soil side of things, but I don't know, is mulch. She was saying that soil or compost isn't regulated. Is mulch regulated?
I don't know.
Like, I don't know. I don't even know if mulch is like regulated in what is allowed to be put into it and all of that stuff. So, I think with mulch, you can end up with a lot of really bad, nasty stuff. So,
yeah, like ground up pellets.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I learned that today, and that's just like crazy to me.
Yeah.
But not surprising.
Yeah, ground up pallets with maybe a little bit of organic stuff tossed into it, and then it's just rolled in these petroleum-based dyes, and anything that holds its color and the heat and the rain and the snow and just all of that stuff, and it just continues to stay this pretty black color, like that shit probably ain't the best stuff.
Yeah,
right?
there's been times where, in Dublin, we were held to a certain standard of having things mulched, and I'm going to mulch an area that's been requested to be mulched, and it was just mulched last year, and I'm like, this doesn't need mulch. It still is really dark black. Like, purely for aesthetic reasons, it's still really black. So why are we doing this again?
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and we still kind of have that like going on at the city. It stinks that it's that way. But there again, like that's in the community that we work in. It's a higher end community, a suburb of Columbus, based around a PGA golf course, and a lot of the residents that are there, they see the value in mulch as an aesthetic thing. So they want that pretty black around every single tree every year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a shame. I wish that we could. I wish we could get on a better schedule of.
And that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're advocating for, attitudes changing about mulches and gardening. So that's,
Yeah,
everything takes time.
for sure. So, yeah, that was kind of, it's not a super long episode, and we weren't throwing like tons of.
Yeah, I mean, we can get really deep into like manures and different types of compost and different type of amendments. That wasn't what this episode was for. This was just about real general mulching.
Yeah, just let's shift our way of thinking, people, away from the big box store bag stuff, $5 for $10, and let's start thinking more about finer processed, locally processed hardwood mulches, and let's shift our focus away from thick 2-inch layers year after year after year. I even know some people that do it spring and fall. Let's get away from that, and let's focus on so less mulch, allowing these plants to grow, allowing these plants to spread, allowing them to do what it is that they want to do, and there again, let's showcase the plants and not the mulch. So.
And like I said, the article that kind of inspired this episode, we'll get that linked up for you. There's a link tree right on the
we have
on
a link tree
Instagram.
on Instagram, yeah.
And just also remember that the word mulch comes from moist and soft. So if you're looking at a mulch and you're not thinking moist and soft, then we've probably gone wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Perfect. Is there anything else you wanted to add to the mulch conversation here? I hope that somebody gets something out of this. I don't know.
Moist and soft.
Yeah. Man, I like it.
Little leather.
Yeah, little leather, moist.
A lot of good buzzwords in this episode.
All right, people.
But again, I'll say thank you again for such a fantastic month of listens. I hope that continues to climb. And you said in no time we're going to hit another.
Yeah, we're knocking on the door at like 2,500 downloads, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really fun. That's why we're doing this. We love, we loved getting the information out there and getting great feedback. So send us that feedback.
Amen to that, brother.
And we love you. We love you real hard. We don't love you moist and soft. We love you hard and leathery.
Hard and leathery. I like it. So, all right, peeps. I guess that does it for this week. We look forward to chit-chatting with you all again next week.
Yeah.
So, love you harder.
Peace, love, and trees.
Leathery hard +2.
Bye.
Bye-bye.